thanks for joining me as always, Haley. We've been having some good responses from you guys. So thanks for tuning in and inviting your friends and checking us out on YouTube and here on Facebook. And we'd love to have more comments and questions and ideas of what you'd love for us to talk about too. So don't forget to bring forth those opportunities, because I think we have so many conversations all the time, Haley. So what we're bringing to everyone is basically what we're already talking about, but I'm sure there are other things people would like to hear about as well. We've been noticing a theme, which is people are loving the conversation around like who you're surrounding yourself with. Are you in alignment? Are you where you're supposed to be? There's just a real interesting dynamic that we're finding in terms of just people loving this topic. So we wanted to continue on with that a little bit today.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree. I've actually noticed in my own life, in my personal experience is, sometimes we surround ourselves with a group of friends or our family, of course, or our coworkers. And we think like, oh, I can't get better than this. Like I'm really thriving. I'm loving this. I'm loving who I'm around. And then things might start to get a little stagnant and, and that's okay. I think that that's completely normal. So now it's about taking things to the next level. And I think that we have to point out, Cari, that sometimes it's okay to outgrow the conversations that we are currently having, because that's the only way I think it's a sign that we're just evolving. And that's what life is about. It's about evolving. It's about growing. It's about showing up and just learning a little bit more every day. And, I always heard that you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, because if you're the smartest person in the room, how are you growing? How are you changing? You want to make sure that the people that you're around, the conversations that you're in, the content that you're absorbing, that every time you leave a conversation, you have learned a little bit, you have grown a little bit. And so
isn't it common? I think people who they rise in their talent, they're the ones giving all the value and they feel good about that. That's a very fulfilling thing, but then they forget about themselves. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's what it's about. And I think that that's been my experience. Is I got to a point where I thought, wow, this is really, really great. I love where I'm working. I love where I'm at. And then you start to evolve and develop, and a little piece of yourself is saying like, well, what else is out there? What else should I explore? And so I think that that's really what drew you and I together. And I was just telling somebody this a few minutes ago. I was just talking about, I have no other words to describe it other than like this magic happens where you're just with people every day and like you're growing them and they're growing you. And it's like, you're just excited every single day about like the conversations that you and I have. I mean,
I know.
I don't have these conversations normally. And I literally, I told someone this the other day, Cari, I said, Cari is my spoonful of sugar. She is my spoonful of sugar, because that's what it's like for me. And I want other people to find that too.
That's so sweet. No pun intended. No, that's awesome. I think that is super cool. And you're also having really great conversations in your coaching conversations. You're hiring talent right now. And you were just so excited to tell me about like, gosh, there's some amazing people out there doing some great things. And so you're probably learning from all of those conversations. And so what's happening is every day, like your mind is being expanded. And when your mind is expanded, it can't go back to what it was before. That's the beautiful thing. It's like a rubber band, right? So it's like, this is a very fulfilling thing to just learn and grow. And it doesn't have to be, sometimes we think we have to show up to all these classes and we have to get all these certifications. I mean, the conversations of people doing things that you're not yet doing, that you've been afraid to do, that you haven't tried, that you are inspired by, or just, having different perspectives is so, so powerful. And it's impactful to us, I think, as human beings, in terms of our joy, and it grows our competence, which grows our confidence. And then that leaks into everything, including relationships and work. So I was talking to somebody yesterday about this a little bit, because he was sharing that, he has a lot of collaboration locally where he is, loves his colleagues and his friends. He's also he's in the real estate industry. But it's interesting because although they're learning and they're talking about what's going on in the market here, what are the trends, what should we be watching for, what's working, I was sharing with him that it's just been very interesting for me to be connected with people throughout the country because things change and shift differently. So the coastal parts of our country obviously start to see signs of things before the inner, section of the country. It's great to have that foresight to see what's happening. People are more willing to share freely, I think, when you're not in the same market and still a perceived competitor. So some of those conversations are so in depth and so detailed that people are learning so much. And then, we were talking about, like, my husband and I, we have just started this development project, and I was laughing yesterday because this gentleman was like, well, I want to become a builder. I want to start doing this, but I'm thinking it's like my 5 or 10 year plan. He's a younger guy. He's got some young kids. And I said, well, you know what? My husband and I are developing property right now. We are not spring chickens, we're 45 and 51, but there's no better time to do something than right now. But, we have people that are having those conversations. We're surrounding ourselves with people who have gone before us, who have done it, who failed forward, who are inspiring us and motivating us, getting us past our fear. And if we didn't have those people around us, we would not be doing that. And it took us a while to think about it before we did it, right? But we at least got into the conversations, and that's what allowed us to grow into it. And then we felt ready to do something. And so whatever industry you're in, or if this is even personal conversations, don't feel guilty that you feel like you're becoming more stagnant, or you've outgrown them, or you're the one giving all, not receiving. And just go look for some new conversations. There's a lot of ways to do that, but people don't realize over time, we literally grow into those conversations around us, or we don't.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, so if bringing it back to real estate, if a real estate agent is listening now and they have this desire to grow themselves and to have these conversations, what's the first step that they would do? Where do they look? Who do they look for? What advice do you have?
Yeah. So, certainly look for people around you that you already know or know of that are doing things that you want to do, doing things maybe differently than you do it. See, we tend to gravitate towards people that are like us, which is not a bad thing. That's just kind of what we do as human beings. But actually, when we're looking to grow, we should be looking to have conversations with people that are not like us. So that's a little bit more uncomfortable for people because they feel like they need to have some synergy or something in common before they go reach out to people. In fact, what you should do is go find people in your market that are doing business very differently than you. But you always wonder, how do they do that? I wouldn't do that. That seems a little risky or a little scary, or that's outside of the box. That's perfect. That's the conversation that you should actually have, and reach out to them and ask them if, you could buy them a coffee or lunch, and if they'd give you 30 minutes of their time because you'd like to pick their brain. And, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but you'll never get the answer yes, unless you ask. So, I think that's the most natural place to start. But then I think you need to get out there and look for people. It doesn't matter, right? We have no boundaries anymore because of social media. Like in general, who's out there talking about things that you would like to talk about, who seems to be networked with people doing crazy, awesome things. One thing that has been, and this, our vision here in our real estate group is that we find some of the experts in certain niches because they can then bring that information to everybody else. And it's something very different that other people have no knowledge of or probably don't do it. That's how we grow. You are, bringing in some amazing speakers to have conversations that I guarantee you most people in our group do not have. And so I guess look for people that are wanting that too, and are trying to find ways in which to bring different, new, fresh conversations around themselves, and figure out how to become part of it. I've had this experience in coaching relationships. I've had this experience in businesses and with colleagues, and quite frankly, sometimes just networking groups. There's so many different ways, but I think just being aware of it, Haley, because most people aren't aware how important the conversations that they have are, or they aren't aware that they're lacking in conversations.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So awareness is first.
I would also say that it's very scary to reach out to somebody who's doing something better than you, and they might be more successful than you. It's scary because you have to come from a place of humility when you reach out to them, and you're asking them, hey, I have nothing to give in return. I'm curious to know how you're doing this so well. I'd love to pick your brain. And it can be very fearful.
Yeah.
But here's what I've learned, because I have reached out to hundreds of people and I've asked them to come in, host masterminds, teach us, help us to learn, help us to grow. And here's what I'll say. When you come from a place of abundance, And when
Mhm.
you come from a place of curiosity and humility, and when you're asking,
Yeah.
most people who are very successful and they're doing things at a very high level, they're coming from also a place of contribution and they want
That's
to
right.
help. And most
Yeah.
people, if you ask them to, and you're letting them know, I will create a platform for you to listen.
Yeah.
I'm here to receive what you have to say.
Yeah.
They want to come from a place of contribution. And that's actually a place of spiritual growth.
Yes.
Um, we want to contribute. We want, as a human being, to help others grow. And we
Mhm.
actually feel very fulfilled helping someone to do that.
Yeah.
So
It's a
I know,
gift.
yeah, it can be very scary to ask
Yeah.
because these are people that you've never met before.
Yeah.
They might, be very well known in your market or in your area. But I can guarantee if you come from a place of humility and abundance and just appreciation and curiosity,
Yeah.
they will likely say yes to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a gift you give them, really. It's
Mhm.
scary because we think we're taking something and we're wasting their time. But really, in reality, they would feel flattered, number one.
Yes.
And number two, it does give them a gift of giving back the knowledge that they've gained. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that would be too afraid to ask them. So they probably don't get asked much. And so you're going to be someone that is asking them. So you're not going to waste their time. They're not going to be overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, everybody's asking me. No, because most people feel like you and they're not asking them. So it'll be
Mhm.
really flattering. It'll probably build a relationship. You're giving them a gift and you're giving yourself a gift. And then you actually get to experience what it's like to have some really great conversations.
Yep. Yep. So I would just encourage people to show up and ask. And I'll share a personal story
Yes.
really, really quickly.
Yes.
And I hope that people find this
Got some
funny,
weird
but
lighting going on.
um
Here I
my,
am. My
my
lighting
husband,
was so weird. Look it.
oh
Now I
no,
actually look like a human being. I
you
don't know
look
what
great.
happened to my light. It was super dark and I was like turning it up. I'm like, I look gray. Well, here I am, you guys.
No, you look
Hello.
fine. You look beautiful before. So here's my quick
Technology.
story. Yeah,
Yes.
here's my quick story. So my husband and I have been together for 18 years. Okay, we're celebrating our 11th
How is
year.
that possible? You look like you're
I know.
18.
I wish. I'm getting gray. I dye my hair. Um, so here's the thing, you guys. I asked my husband out on our very first date, and I can guarantee you if I did not ask him out, he probably wouldn't have asked me out. So
And
it was a
look
little
what must be
scary.
happening right now.
Yeah,
I know.
I was 16 years old and I asked him out to a movie. So even though it's scary, like
Yeah.
just be confident and like just know who you are and know that they might say no, they might not.
Yeah.
But
And it
here we
literally
are.
could change the trajectory of your life like it
Yeah,
did
here we are.
yours, right?
18 years later, and he gets the gift of me every day.
And you still get to take credit for it. It'll never end. I love it. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. We'll see you next Tuesday. Don't forget to check out our YouTube if you've missed some of our last episodes and let us know what you guys would like to talk about because we'd love to bring you some more conversations that you
Mhm.
would like to grow into as well. Thanks,
Perfect.
Haley.
Thanks,
See you.
Cari. Bye.
Bye.